This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. We are sitting in a very noisy and drippy bar in Toronto, Canada.
Yes, and it's a little dreary, but people are coming in, and we're about to play in a couple of hours. It's nice to be back in Canada, and opening band sound checking in the background as we speak.
Well, and not only are we doing a few shows in Canada, but then we take off, and I'm a little bit horrified that, first of all, we're going to Harrisburg, and then we're going to Pittsburgh, and this evacuation of 50 cars out of 100 on a train derailed with toxic chemicals right near Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and basically the sheriffs had to come in, and because there's always, America, like freedom, you can't tell them what to do. They're like, you need to evacuate. It was so toxic and so dangerous, and I don't know if anyone's died, but it's I don't know if they can even move back. It's so carcinogenic that I don't even know what they're going to do.
Well, I mean, only 10 cars carrying hazardous materials derailed, and 5 of them were carrying vinyl chloride, which, I mean, okay, so this happens, and then there's a town hall meeting, and they arrest a news reporter, but the news reporter happens to be a black news reporter, and he just wants to get the skinny on what's going down.
Why do they arrest him?
Because they're white motherfucking assholes.
What are the official charges?
Disturbing the fucking community meeting because he wanted the answer, like, when can people move back?
Oh my God.
We end in Buffalo, which just had an earthquake, so we're doing real good on tour here.
Yes. Well, for Syria, I mean, I think the death count
is 20,000.
20,000. It's going to be like 40,000. I mean, anyone that saw the footage, it's whole buildings, a million 9/11s basically. It's and of course, going through all these wars, and things are settling for a second, and then all of a sudden Mother Nature comes in and is like, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, so many of the buildings in Turkey, if anybody's ever been there, I mean, I've been to Istanbul a few times, are so ramshackle that it's just they're built to collapse. It's very sad. It's very, very devastating.
I don't know what to say. I mean, it's disastrous. And of course, that jerk, what's his name, Erdogan, that guy is like, holding us hostage with, Turkey being in a strategic position, with all this like megalomaniacal ideas. But then, of course, when this happens, please send money. I mean, it's sort of like when DeSantis, when we had the awful hurricane that destroyed Southwest Florida, when Hurricane Sandy happened and really fucked up New Jersey and New York, he was basically like, New Yorkers should pay for their own thing. I live in Florida. I don't have to pay for it. And of course, once it happens to him, this is not about politics. Send me the money. I mean,
let's go back to Turkey for a minute, because first of all, it's an incredible, Turkey in the 1920s. Turkey was very, very liberal and advanced, and of course, there's so much great music and the architecture of ancient Turkey, Constantinople. I mean, spice route and spice food, really an amazing place. But like so many things, when they might be good for a while, eventually cycle around, and it's going to be again another dictator in charge of fucking people up.
Total piece of shit. I mean, I haven't been to Turkey in a while. I went about 22 years ago, including Cappadocia, which is,
unbelievably beautiful.
It's underground cities at 30 stories deep and underground. Besides the point, what was interesting, it's super diverse, just the demographics. But you'd be going down the river or you'll be in the harbor, and you'd see these kind of wealthy houses, and the women would be like sunbathing topless. And then you go into the town and people just have whole head covered up. So it's kind of a class thing. Basically, the wealthier people, the people with more education, kind of live a very progressive life, because I don't know why that is. Because they have education, and then the poor people tend to be a little more religious. But that's a generalization, of course. But that was my general observation.
It's an amazing place with amazing people and shitty politics, like so many places. Like, anyway, speaking about shitty, I don't know why these stories always come to me, but I'm very happy for any progress that doctors make. So people, and I think maybe a few of our listeners occasionally suffer from chronic constipation.
Oh boy.
And now I think that opening band might be trying to release Cleveland Steamer. But now there is, instead of a drug, there is now a vibrating pill that goes to stimulate the colon, so that instead of having to do, like X-Lax or whatever, and I always think, whatever you can insert inside your body that's going to stimulate you, good on you. That's what happens when you got nothing else to do on an afternoon and it's rainy.
Well, when you told me about this constipation pill, of course,
it's called Vibrant.
Vibrant. Of course, my brain was thinking in a different direction. I thought it was a pill to make you constipated. I was like, well, who the hell would want that?
Well, I mean, look, if you have fewer than 3 bowel movements in a week, I think you're ready for Vibrant.
Vibrant.
I love the idea of it. I mean, but again, swallowing what is it? It's not drugs, so it's you're swallowing a little vibrator. I mean, I may have used vibrators. I don't swallow them. Just saying.
So I wonder if your anus starts vibrating. I wonder if
no, it stimulates the colon.
Yeah, but that could be a sensation for sure. What about this?
Well, I mean, no, that look, I mean, constipation is no laughing matter because.
Well, I'm laughing now.
But I don't know why I'm laughing. But I mean, when you're backed up, I mean, you're suffering. You're stuck with your own toxins. I mean, you got to let it out. The more you let it out, the better it is.
When I was a little kid, I always liked this joke. I don't know if you ever heard this one. How did the mathematician cure his constipation?
Number twos?
He worked it out with a pencil.
Very good.
So basically, I don't know if you heard about this carjacking where the carjacker basically got more than he bargained for. He basically gets the car, drives off, and of course looks in the rear view mirror. There's a toddler in a baby seat. So basically, oh my God, there's a whole chase where basically they had to rescue this kid. And I don't know, when I was a kid once, a long time ago, my dad, I think he went to like a car wash and I was sleeping in the back. And it was one of these ones where like the worker drives it into the car wash. I woke up, my dad not around, and a stranger in the car driving off. And I was like, like thinking I was being kidnapped. Of course, I didn't know what was going on. Of course, I wasn't, but that was terrifying. So I can relate to what this kid must have been going through. So glad they got him.
Well, Tim, I'm glad you're here with me now. But on many a night, I was hoping someone would kidnap you, especially after a night like last night when you were talking in tongues to trees, as I like to occasionally say. Talking Timmy the tree hugger. We don't need to exactly. Anybody that knows Tim knows what I'm talking about. Let's just say the Prince came out, and I could hear him 3 stories up. Now it was undistinguishable and indiscernible. He might have been speaking in hieroglyphs. And as he just reported to me, Weasel maybe got in 5 words. Kevin Stray and I had evacuated the premises once we saw the intoxicants that were going down the gully and out in the mouth and then out of the mouth of Timothy Seymour. It
was a splendid night and we had a great dinner. We had a great hang. No complaints. And tonight's going to be a great show.
And I will be sure to plug all my holes on the way out of town.
You do that.
Thank you very much. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydian Lunch, Tim Dahl. We are in Toronto. It's pouring rain. It's going to be a great fucking night. And this is episode, whatever it is, 187 with Eugene Hütz of Gogol Bordello, possibly another one of my future ex-husbands.
Who came to our show the other night and had a great chat backstage. Very cool and interesting guy.
Got down and boogied. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and actor, DJ, musician, composer, vocalist, activist, aggravant, main man of Gogol Bordello, Eugene Hütz. Hello.
Hello. What's happening? How you doing?
Good. So you kind of did the new year with like what 2, 3, a bunch of shows, right? You had back to back. How did that go?
4 nights. Yeah.
4. Wow, impressive. And where was that?
We always do that. Actually, it was a kind of continuation tradition, you know.
Okay.
I kind of took it to heart that like when we started coming up, we kind of naturally started doing this in the city, you know, 1, 2, 3 nights of New Year's, but then people kind of really caught on to it. And actually some, you know, local, you know, musicians, they were like, listen, this is really cool. This is like where all musicians want to go and, you know, round up the year. And so it kind of, that idea kind of communal kind of fire, you know.
You're very about the communal fire. I mean, your music is a riotous exclamation of almost joy in spite of the bullshit. It really is a call to I would say the arms of Kali. It's a call to come on, like my message. I mean, pleasure is the ultimate revenge. And I was gonna say, so Happy New Year. Right. We're fucked again.
Well, I mean, that's how divine comedy seems to be perpetuating itself. It's nothing really new, but at the same time, there is escalations. I mean, the whole last 5 years, it's like no wonder punk rock is getting good again. So if it's not like political turmoil, then it's a pandemic. If it's not pandemic, it's a fucking war and invasion of the bigots. So there's a lot of muscle to more than just flex, but to really exercise and create quality art that can get people moving in a direction of this direction.
Well, Eugene, you might not see it, but the bullhorn is never far from my lips.
Well, you've been on a cultural front for a very long time, and
well, they're big, my two middle fingers, because let's go back to the base, because what an incredible and devastating, and what a freaking phoenix you are, my friend. Born in Ukraine. I love that your father was I love butchers. Oh my God.
Yeah, he did do that for quite a number of years. Even though he was a rock and roll musician, essentially.
Right. He was in one of the first rock band. He built you a guitar and a drum set.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so that's when you're 14, but isn't that around the age that you had to flee from the meltdown? And by the way, I went to the meltdown as you were fleeing. Again, that was the first time we were in a parallel dimension with each other.
Absolutely. You went with Kid Congo.
Dehout, yeah.
Yeah, with Dehout, and was Roland Howard there too, or
might have been. I can't remember, but I know that one of the Dehout guys brought a whole trunk of food because, of course, I'm like, look, I'm an American. If I've already gone through the cancer zones, and I'm still here. So you get your instruments, and it's not long after that your parents decide to flee.
Well, actually, it was all kind of happening in the same time. So to go a little bit chronologically, I was heavily into music already by 11, 12, 13. So my father having all the instruments leftovers from his wilder years laying around, and his brother, who's a painter but also who played the drums, they played together. Yeah, I was always wondering since I was like 3 years old, like, what is that thing like laying there? It's the hi-hat, I was like,
right.
It looks a little like hi-hat without the cymbals. Like, what is the thing?
A metal pancake, yeah.
Yeah, without the pancakes, And my father was like, oh, you'll find out when the time's right.
You'll find out, yeah.
Well, who wants a 3-year-old beating on drums? My God.
It was a few years later, but, by 12, 13, we assembled things back together, and with some DIY made things literally out of gigantic big fish cans, just duct tape and all that kind of thing. And people are pretty handy in Ukraine, especially my father. So, make like a distortion pedal out of some parts out of the radio.
How did you know you even wanted a distortion pedal?
Oh, there you go.
Oh, come on. I was born to the sounds of Jimi Hendrix, like I wasn't in my mother's
exactly
listening to Band of Gypsies, like live recording. That was my jam,
How did you access rock and roll? Like someone like as big as a Jimi Hendrix? I mean, I know like in Poland, for instance, free jazz was like
cassettes.
Oh no, free jazz was kind of in because that was considered rebellion music, black rebellion music against the system in America. But rock and roll is popular music. So how did you get it? Where did you get it from?
Well, I mean, as I said, I'm kind of spoiled and from my father because I got everything from him. Like, and
right.
Once I discovered my own music, which was punk rock, which he did not chime in too heavily,
Right.
Yeah. So I knew where to get it. It was the same black market where like we got the metal records with my dad, So
right.
Because people need to know that there was the black market. And again, back to like free jazz in Poland, a lot of countries at that time in the East, they would pass around cassettes. One person would get a cassette. There's the music. You have to hear this. Frank Zappa, everything was passed around because people wanted to hear it. But how are you going to get it? Any way you can.
Yes, and so going to black market and buying vinyl, you could also buy but it's just costed so much money. It was
right,
which we still did and invested. But cassettes was more of a force because there was a bit of curatorial power involved. People could make compilations, and you get one side.
It's here to smuggle.
Yeah, and you get one side would be Dead Kennedys, another one would be Devo, which is kind of like there's a bit of diversity or people would make compilations. And also cassettes was probably the most powerful way to display your own music. So you couldn't release anything on any label or anything. There was only one label owned by Soviet Union.
Right.
How did you first even hear about punk rock? Let's say when you're like, 12, 13, you're in Ukraine. I mean, was it like another musical son of another musician, or how do you go, shit, I'm going here? How did you do you remember the first time you stumbled upon it, and who was it? Was it Dead Kennedys?
Actually, I remember exactly how it was. We went to a metal show. Metal is a gateway, when you're 12, that's like your music,
Right.
Ronnie James Dio and all that is like, slightly artsy metal, a comic book kind of thing. And I went to a metal show of a Kiev band called Adam, Yidden, and the band was opening for them was just like it was just so atonal and depressing and somehow groovy, and I was like, what the fuck is this? They didn't have any distortion on guitar. It was kind of like PIL inspired kind of band, like
what was the name of the band?
Pure kind of thing.
What was the name of the band?
Коллежский assessor.
Which means what?
Collegian assessor, meaning the faculty of the of the university, kind of implying a higher curatorial intelligence in the house. And I was like, what the fuck is this? This is kind of unlistenable, And that people saw a group of kids who were like really into it, and they're like, oh man, this is what's up. Like, still doing that metal thing. You're sleeping, bro.
Wake up, it's time to rock with punk.
And I just started, I met them at that show, and we started going to each other.
Yeah,
I started going to their houses. They were all like 5-6 years old.
And you formed your own punk band, I assumed.
Shortly after, yes.
Yeah.
What did that sound like?
But you know what it is. You know how it is. It's like a flock punk flock. It's never too big. Even if you're in London or in New York,
Well, imagine how small the No Wave flock was. I might be the only one standing.
Yeah, those scenes are never big. So, but they were pretty strong. And, what attracted me to it is how much diversity there was, like from sound of Sex Pistols to PIL was quantum leaps, and Birthday Party, we got there fast, from like going from orthodox music like Sex Pistols and Stooges and The Clash, we went to listening to Birthday Party and Teenage Jesus and the Jerks. And
penetration in Ukraine, I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
birthday party. The first two Birthday Party albums, they're just still my favorite. They are still my favorite band. Right, just Roland Howard.
So, what year was this concert that you attended that kind of changed your life?
86.
86. Okay.
Yeah, 86.
And you moved out.
So you were 14.
When did you leave? When did you leave Ukraine? What year?
89.
So right as soon as the wall came down, you're out.
Yeah, actually, it was December 89. It was actually the wall was getting undone as we were exiting. It was right on, I mean, we were still living at Soviet Union, but think like we were still in Poland or in Austria somewhere where all this news came in.
Yeah. So what was happening when your family decided to escape the meltdown, which if only we could, because everything is in meltdown. We're toxically contaminated forever everywhere. But I mean, what was that like? Where did you go? How did that? What the hell is that about? And especially as a teenager, like your entire teenage years seem to have been taken up, like just fleeing from place to place. And
I didn't have much of that cocoon of youth where that people, remember as their kind of vortex of becoming kind of like having your flock and your girlfriend and your friends. It was kind of shattered. Not kind of, but it was shattered. I mean, I actually didn't, on an emotional level, I didn't want to leave because I was leaving all that just begun. And, my girlfriend at the time, who was a painter, and she was amazing, and, doing album covers for every band in Kiev. And our band was starting to take off. We were getting on the radar of, actually, Brian Eno was scouting around at that time. He went he sent out his kind of friends to scout for the bands in the defunct Soviet Union, seeking underground bands, and we were on the radar of that whole operation. Send our tape in, and we thought something was going to happen out of that. So it was a pretty hip time in a lot of ways because the change was in the air. I mean, fucking Scorpions were thinking it, singing it. It wasn't so underground. Like the change, we were in the underground music, but the change was just tectonic. And and you came in actually and played with my friends with Ivanov Down. When you came with Dehout and with to Kiev, you guys played on the bill with my friends. I mean, that was literally the guys I played with. I just left. And
Eugene, now that we're talking, and that was our first near miss. I'm always leaving. You're always coming. You're always leaving. I'm always coming. Now that we're here together, now it's going to change, my friend. This is ridiculous. And it goes all the way back to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you still in touch with those musicians? You're
Change has come today. That's the Chamber Brothers.
We're in constant flux. We keep moving. And yes, I am in touch, of course. I mean, I'm in touch with a lot of people in Kiev, and
Right. So right now, let's talk about that for a minute. So, and you've been doing benefits for the people of Ukraine. I mean, you had to flee, but it must be just so, again, brutalizing that you had to exile the country you're from, and now again, it's going to become a bigger refugee nation, and people don't want to leave Ukraine. But I mean, so much devastation.
Well, listen, I mean, the reason why Ukrainian diaspora is so huge around the world is still, once again, that reason. It's Moscow. I mean, it's a bigotry. It's a conglomerate of bigotry, and anybody from Finland and all the way to Japan can tell you that. So that whole thing is, of course, already has run its course, and it's falling apart as we speak. But it took Ukrainian nation to stand up and show everybody how it's done. So, it's something important for people to understand that that is a very unnew story, and there's a lot of kind of like a pro Moscow narratives that are floating there that people just picked up as a virus. Literally, they just don't know. And
you mean like the pro-Trump virus that hit here? Hello.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally viruses, and
yes,
they're
absolutely.
spread, and I mean, and people latch onto them because I mean,
stupidity, fear.
But there is like Sabota Party, and there is a right-wing nationalist thing that does exist. I mean, you can't deny that, but it doesn't justify invasion and creating a war. I mean, what I'm saying, the viruses that you're referring to that are floating around are, they're fighting Western Nazis and that all this stuff, which is.
I mean, Moscow is the biggest center of fascism. I mean,
totally.
They're celebrating it right now.
Right. Yeah.
They have TV heads and writers and entire
propaganda machines,
celebrity parades stomping along with it, and this whole idea that like oh, the population is not for it. It's like, what are in the world are you talking about it? They're for it even here in the States.
Well, and we had Masha on from Pussy Riot on the show. Well, as a Friday.
I'm sure they told you.
She's actually saying it's the opposite, that the Russian people aren't into it. They actually don't want this. Yeah, exactly.
When was the last time she checked her info? I mean, 85% of
she claims that was that's a lie. That's according to her. She claims that the majority actually aren't into this war.
And this is just, I don't understand how we've come this far in history and we're still in the Middle Ages.
Oh, there's a lot of double standard for sure. It seems like they actually employ double standard as their chief tactic. Like,
perfectly put. Exactly.
So I assume you have family that you're in touch with that are in Ukraine and are enduring this, or no? Of
course.
Yeah, this is so tragic.
Let's talk about the new album. Let's talk about your music for a minute, because you, like there's musical schizophrenia going on here, which is what I respect most, of course. I mean, and I really like when you do acoustic stuff, which is, very, very Tom Waits and very sexy, I might say. But, your music it's punk rooted, but Romany, but world, but weird. It's boisterous. It's exciting. There's no really putting a genre on it. And it's the protest of having fun. Fuck you, let's have fun. And that's really a good point to have right now. So tell us about your new album. 13 songs, is it?
Yeah. Well, this one kind of emerged as probably like the most urgency driven, and also, as you said, acoustically, like it's kind of ironic that people usually kind of who appreciate Gogol Bordello see me as this acoustic guitar guy who like comes from that side, but it's actually, I mean, acoustic guitar was absolutely new instrument to me when I started Gogol Bordello. I all my life I played super spasmodic music from like kind of no wave spirited, like James Chance and Sonic Youth and Talking Heads, that doesn't require a whole lot of virtuosity at first.
Skronkin.
Yeah, exactly. To just once I picked up some riffage, I had a massive hardcore phase, and always looked up to kind of New York music as my vector for one reason or another.
By the way, wait a second. I say the word vector all the time. I've never heard anybody. Eugene, I don't know how we're connected, but we are. Vector. Hello.
Vector is such a great.
Oh my God, it's a great word.
I think I got on the train from Alan Vega and probably a bit of Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, a bit of Sonic Youth, seeing them live in Kiev, and they
were amazing live at that point.
Yeah, 2 years right before you came with Out.
They were really amazing live at that point.
Yeah, totally. And those Daydream Nation tour, it was mind blowing for sure. So that kind of solidified my vector, and then nothing seemed to undo it. Then I came here and I immersed into like full New York hardcore scene. I go and see Shelter and Agnostic Front, Madball, that Sick of It All, that whole streak of music just kind of swept.
Because you finally got to the States in 92, is that right?
91, yeah.
92 to Vermont.
Yeah.
As a under like a sanctioned refugee?
Yes.
Wow.
Political refugees, yeah. There was a big refugee program for people from Tibet, and somehow, I mean, we first came to New York, of course, but New York we were told it's so packed with refugees at the moment that we had to go there. And so, I went and we lived there with Albanian and Romanian refugees in a refugee house for a while. And which is how I basically met my first friends who were living just, it was a modest part of town. And that's how I met the kids who brought me to hardcore shows, really.
When I saw Agnostic Front around that time, they were actually touring with like satanic Florida death metal bands, because it was kind of like those worlds were finally coming together. I think I saw them with
Yeah, they had a kind of more metallic face for sure.
Yeah. No, that was, I mean, talk about conviction. Those were great performances. So, but you started the band, your band in Vermont, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And did
I mean, I had a band back in Ukraine, but you know.
Right. Okay, but Vermont is where you kind of launched it in the States. And then how many of the Vermonters that were in the band did they came with you to New York?
None.
None. Okay.
I mean, we already played as a band because of my previous band. We came out and played here in CBGB's and Coney Island High several times. So, you know, I was making my intention was set.
Connections.
By 94, 95, we're coming down playing shows here, you know, and you know what I think what really actually kind of hit me and made my plan to really move down here as soon as possible to New York City was that, you know, remember playing Coney Island High, and then I just walked around the block and I saw there was like 3 Ukrainian bars and restaurants.
Oh yeah, right over there.
I'm home.
It's my place or what? You know, like I think I'm gonna like this place a lot. You know, it just kind of fell in this magical thing that I would, you know, my dreamland.
What's your Ukrainian dish of choice if you had to pick one?
Just take like Veselka menu and go down.
Oh yeah,
okay.
honey, I spent many a lonely and not so lonely night in Veselka. Trust me. Oh yeah.
Yes, and right above it, you know, where you know, there were so many shows were held in Ukrainian National Home. As I found out later, you know, from Misfits to Cro-Mags to Order, who didn't play there, you know?
Yeah. So look, you okay, you have to get to New York. That's it. You're going hell or high water. What do you do? Like, how did you bust in? What's your first move? Did you have a friend you're gonna stay with? How did you manage that?
I first started coming and staying with friends from there was a Japanese band that I really admired called Ultra Bide. They were kind of noisecore, very avant-garde, hardcore. They were in Alternative Tentacles.
I remember that.
Yeah, we played with them with my old band several times, and you know, we hit it off. And I started coming to the city and crushing on Hide's floor. Hide, the bass player, was he's back in Japan now, but he was an amazing kind of guy who was fully into Einsturze and Neubaut, and just we were speaking that like trans-global avant-garde punk rock language, and it was easy to connect. So, you know, and then I just, you know, he brought me to Mars Bar, and you know, I also met his other friends, Gabi Molotov, who was a sound man in CBGB's. He was a singer of Molotov Cocktail. You know, he was from Romania, you know, and I was like, oh, another Eastern European punk rocker here, you know, who's been here like, you know, for a decade. So we started hanging out and seeing. I just kind of got into the swing of things, and I was like
swinging from one floor to the other couch. Yeah, that's how you had to do it,
basically. And then
I know,
staying in a very you know, place full of holes in Brooklyn with rats running underneath, and literally, not like this is not technology. This is how it was. It was like normal back then, you know, just cover up the fucking hole in the floor with a mattress and.
Good luck. Hopefully one won't run across your face before you wake up. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. And basking, you know. Basking. Just going on 42nd Street, and I remember just going up on 42nd Street with my acoustic guitar, and you know, I see the train is coming. It's coming right about.
How much? What would a good day of busking make you?
It was never good. I mean,
okay.
So Eugene, you decided at one point to move to Brazil for 7 years. When was that, and what started that off?
Yeah, I guess several things kind of led up to that.
What years was that?
So that was 2007 till 14. Yeah, like almost 7 years. And I kind of basically lived entire life in there in a certain sense, and I thought that I'll never leave. It's that good of a
environment,
a place for writing and just and getting yourself together, because I was basically destroyed by that time. My health was holding by a thread by 2007, and just from exhausted from playing like nearly 200 shows a year.
That's
insane.
A lot. That's
Gogol Bordello touring became completely crazy, and
well, and it's amazing that you could get that many shows, but people have to realize the toll it does take. I mean, not only physically, psychologically, psychically, everything.
Yeah, I mean, chiefly psychically. I mean, it was just very close to a point of no return. So, I had to go to something where I completely had to change my lifestyle and kind of just become friends with daylight. I mean, we're as a people who grew up in big cities. I mean, Kiev is still a huge city. It's millions of people, and growing up in tall projects like buildings, we fight all the syndromes of urban upbringing, with music and with various forms of art and ambience and all kind of tricking ourselves into. We're basically more friends with nightlife than that seems to be more. You're kind of either smashed, either you had some alcohol, either whatever else is your friend at that time, but you're kind of mostly having your great times in nighttime, and that will take toll eventually, and then you'll either die, either you will become friends with the daylight at some point.
Well, also I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, especially when you're doing that many shows, and it almost becomes a gluttony. And with gluttony, no matter what it's for, whether it's for the shows, whether it's for drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, that once you realize, all right, that's not enough, even though it's too much for most people, I gotta cut that all back, deprogram, reset, and appreciate not only the daylight, every other minor pleasure and beauty that is out there for us that we can just overlook if you're on the freaking treadmill. And that means that the enemy has won, in my opinion. It's like, you have to appreciate, and I know, because also you've had a really rough existence, and you could just continue on a road where, but what about actually soothing the soul? And that's not bullshit, right? I see the look in your face. I know.
What were some of your favorite daytime activities that you basically took on when you moved to Brazil?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, in Brazil, its natural state of flourishing in a sense of nature is just much more greater than here. I mean, like coming from tour to like New York City or like upstate New York, like it's not gonna do it. Like it's still not enough replenishing as in Brazil. It seems to be probably the best place for that. It's so juicy, and
Tim is a nature freak. Tim loves to surf, scuba dive. He loves nature. I love nature. So hey, look, I'm a squirrel. I'll take a squirrel in a pinch. Anything. I get it.
One of the Brazil tours we were on, Lydia, what blew my mind was the party starting at 5 a.m. So it does go into daytime. Like the bar's empty and then everyone's on the streets making music.
Don't get me wrong. Yes, their nightlife is extreme.
It's daylight. It's daylight. Their nightlife is daylight.
Yeah, but the thing is that the day life is also good, and also I was really getting into that kind of martial arts and qigong and meditation and all those kind of things that many of us discover sooner or later as essential tools. And I mean, first time I heard about Tai Chi and qigong was actually from Iggy, and then it turned out to be that Lou and Iggy and Tony Visconti, they've been like super tight practitioners of these inner engineering, inner disciplines for decades. So
well, inner emptying out and replenishing without all the contamination that we can't avoid it, but we can purify.
Exactly. It was pretty much some years of, just getting inner core rebalanced. And
were you touring
Well-
considerably less also between those years? Did you kind of slow down the touring? I mean, you were doing close to 200 shows. Suddenly you're in Brazil. Did you?
yeah, it became like 120 shows.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, I would think, I mean, were you touring South America more? I mean, it just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
What a
Chile,
joy. Yeah.
Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, of course. Yes.
I mean, and Americans are so ignorant of really what we just think South America. First of all, like we think Africa, like it's all one thing. They're all very different. They all have incredible cultures, incredible fauna, incredible food, incredible culture and people.
yeah, they're completely diverse and as singular in their own right as people in Eastern Europe. Romania to Hungary to Ukraine is absolutely different streaks of.
Absolutely. Yeah. When did you start? If you're traveling through camps and all of this, when did you really start getting into literature? Because I know it saved me. And I know you've read, and I love a lot of Polish writers. They're some of my favorite. Schultz, Witkowski, Witkowicz, Tadeusz Konwicki, etc.
Stanislav Lem.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Polanski as a filmmaker.
The thing is that came from just my family. I mean, my father and his brother, they read like maniacs, and like
makes such a difference.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a normal thing. I don't think my father ever actually sat down with a plate of food without reading a novel. It was always like he was just shredding through them.
Do you think there's one book that maybe really changed your perspective, or that you're like, exactly, that's what I need to read right now?
I think it was Balzac. I think I mean, Balzac written like 100 novels. I think it was the laughing mask, or the man with the laughing mask. I don't know. I think that might be the translation.
Do you know the Romanian philosopher E.M. Cioran? Cioran. Oh, well, we'll talk about that later. Oh, I'm going to inform you. Yeah, lived to 80, came from Romania, wrote in Paris. Totally so down. He's hilarious. I think you'll like him. The Temptation to Exist, The Trouble with Being Born, History and Utopia. We'll talk about that later.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few Romanians that are kicked ass on that front. Tristan Tzara being poster boy for all of that.
So why did you come back? Why did you leave Brazil?
This is my place, man. All my friends are here, and
you re-upped. It's time to come back. You re-upped.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that happened. It was just, I still loved Brazil. I still was completely enchanted by it. Then Olympics came there and kind of smeared, it kind of trashed the vibe.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It's the Olympics and World Cup back to back, right?
Yeah. It was a disaster.
It was a disaster. They lost so much fucking money.
All those hotels, a lot of those hotels they built and stayed.
And their natural history museum burned down supposedly because they didn't have money because they blew it all on that fucking crap or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I wasn't expert on the economics, but the overall thing was that it didn't pan out as great, as unfortunate as was B. Plus, I don't know. It's
it never does. When you have the Olympics in your town, it's a disaster. You lose.
Well, I got a little bit. I'm from Kiev, and Dynamo Kiev, the soccer team, was always a powerful cultural force in that sense. And being part of the kind of punk rock and early, there was crossovers of street youth culture.
Hooligans, or is that what you're getting at?
What's that?
Like hooligans? Is that what you're getting at? Or
they don't call them hooligans; it's called the firm.
The firm.
Yeah, it's a huge European culture of in knowing how those things really interact is a whole another very, very tall cake of urban breakdown. If you just go into this realm without understanding how it works, you're not going to make it through. But if you do understand, like, how does metalheads and punks, related to the early, skinheads and the fans of all that. And, I'm not talking about the offshoots of skinheads that we don't, that are not part of that whole culture, all the kind of Nazi skinhead things. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the original,
right?
Rock steady skinheads,
Yep.
Original Oi crowds. There was overlapping with a lot of football fans.
Yeah.
I think they should turn the football stadiums because women don't have sports. We don't really have war. But I once thought that it would be great if Annie Sprinkle would teach women how to multiple orgasm. So we could at least have that on the weekends, ladies.
Yeah. I remember I met her when she was doing a scene with Nick Zed in a club that on Lower East Side. And
she took great photos of me. Let's go back to Jim Sclavunis. I had no idea that he produced your first record. That's amazing. He's such a great guy. We just had him on the podcast a few weeks ago. He's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. I gotta check that out.
It was hilarious, of course. We have very differing. He's kind of my memory bank for a certain period of time, although we have slightly differing memories. I don't know if I always trust him, but I do love him. So let's talk about the new album. So how is it different? Or you said it was made more out of desperation because the time is now. We have to have stuff out there. We have to be performing. We have to be talking. And it's very lively. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. It's freaking lively. It makes you feel good. I mean, I really thought I really think it sounds great.
Thank you so much. Well, it's not so much, I guess, desperation as much as like, you make what you lack. That seems to be the main engine. You feel certain void and vacuum and in the air and in culture, and you fill that up with whatever you think is lacking. And for us, what was lacking is kind of unifying music because, coming from all those youth waves that were kind of had so much vitality, and living now in a kind of time where there is so much separation and all these it seems like everybody has their own little fan club cheering them on, whatever the fuck they're doing. You know what I mean? And it's kind of awesome in one way, but in another way, people are just kind of like that. That whole thing, how we're just all flying in separate ways and the universe is expanding. It's kind of became very tangible and very easy to observe as people are literally talking to each other and hearing each other less and less and less and less.
Well, and that's why we talk a lot and have people on the freaking podcast, because it's just, to me and Tim, it's mandatory that we have the people that are still stubborn, still creating, still outliers, connected somehow, always somehow strangely connected. And it's just important because it's just very important to have these dialogues right now. And it's very important to illustrate people that are just too stubborn to stop. Thank you, Eugene. Too stubborn to stop.
No, seriously, there's and that dialogue naturally springs out from people who came from that background of knowing how it's done. So we made, Walter Schreifels from Gorilla Biscuits and Quicksand and, whole number Youth of Today. He played in Warzone even at some point.
Came in to produce, help to produce.
Yes. And there was natural. It was more like, hey, let's hang out together and do this record, because we know we kind of were on the same vibe of that's what needs to be. And especially also, I do have to say a special shout out. I mean, I'm a fucking lifer. I'm a punk rocker, but
I'm a punch rocker. Go on, tell me about it.
Needless to say amongst us, but fucking yes, need to be said once again for everybody else. Not probably at your podcast, everybody here is a lifer too, most likely. But the special shout out does go again to kind of what you were talking about, to dialogue between even when the war started in Ukraine. Who were the first people to voice, support the resistance? Was it somebody you see in the charts?
No,
No.
I don't even see the charts, but no, it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. It was like Patti Smith. It was Sick of It All, Ministry, Ole Jurgensen. Just did a song with All, actually. Always loved Ministry, and respect to the doers. Les Claypool. So everybody from punk rock, hard ass punk background. Those are people that just naturally had inclination to react.
Speak out, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a heart vision is on, as a lot of others are just kind of sort of like sitting and waiting there what the outcome, so they can go back probably to Russia and play big festivals for those big oligarchs' money. It's like, it's not gonna fucking happen.
No, and thank you. How long did it take you to record or to even write this album? Did you have songs like in the wings, or did it come together quickly, or what was the process for this latest album that just came out a couple of months ago?
Yeah, was actually pretty quickly, which is writing quickly is not necessarily always great. I mean,
you did a damn good job, honey.
Thank you. It's just, I think it's just being part of it was being pretty seasoned songwriter at this point, and kind of knowing how the Rubik's Cube to be put together. And so the speed this time with the urgency and some skill did sum up to.
How do you go about writing songs? Do you write it with some of the other musicians? Do you write all the music? How do the songs form at Gogol Bordello? Because each song is pretty complex, has so many diverse instruments. And so how does that process even work?
Well, the band, I mean, I finished the songs pretty much by myself. It's just how.
Do you write them on the guitar?
Guitar or just in the head, basically.
Yeah, I understand that.
And so you write the song and then the band does the arrangement, or do you actually
tell them together? Yeah, which I consider to be like basically writing it.
You start jamming.
Writing it again with a band.
Yeah, right. You start jamming on it.
Yeah, yeah. And if I have the specific parts, of course, we'll find a way to put them in. But I mean, actually, I was always yearning for like that kind of, Joe Strummer, Mick Jones kind of chemistry, but it just never really happened. And
so you take the instrument by the horns and you shake it until other people step up and start shaking their shit too. That's what you do.
It just seemed like completing songs. Like in my life, nobody really questioned that ability of mine, so people just kind of rolled with it, like, okay, that these are the songs and let's fucking do them.
How many musicians were on stage for your New Year's shows?
How many musicians on stage?
Yeah.
Well, that varies because Gogol Bordello is like, it's kind of like the band.
It's an accordion, right? It's like it's like an accordion of musicians.
There's a one way to put it. Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like a hockey team. It's like there's people who been in a band, left the band, but come in for, once we're performing in a city, Elizabeth and Pamela, they'll come and chime in and rock it out. And
so do they live all over the place? Is the band scattered?
It's a bit scattered, but the core is here in New York City.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. The core is in the city in New York. Boris lives in Guatemala now, and as of 2 years ago, and Pedro in Germany. His Ukrainian girlfriend lives in Germany now, so he comes back and forth. But and Corey, our drummer, he lives in San Diego.
So how often, with all the communal thing and people just kind of coming back and for a show, how often does a audience member not read the room and think, well, I'm part of this too, and just kind of gets on stage and it's like kind of oversteps their boundaries?
Yeah. I mean, just this last show's New Year's was perfect manifestation of all of that, because Kathy McGaffigan, who was with us in like early tours, like 2000, 2001, she busted out on stage some next level industrial rave insanity that went very well with our finale.
Okay.
For like 15 minutes, and because what I think that one of the things that, and I'm proud to say that I think that one of the things that we mastered is exactly that call of the wild, where people go, you know what, fuck this is my time, I'm getting on the fucking like, we didn't discuss that, like whoever thought that they had it in them to fucking bust out the fucking funk, they'll get out there and whatever they fucking had to offer, like they'll
bring those baby trumpets to the stage.
They felt like it's gonna be some choreographic fantasy, a gift to the yeah. And if it would be like William Burroughs, back in the days, he'd probably bust out and start rapping right there too. That's the kind of thing that we seem to be.
Well, because it's infectious what you're doing. I mean, I like to infect people, but you are actually infectious.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we kind of instigate that. Yeah, and if you caught like the whole early years of performing on Lower East Side, they were actually very interesting because every show was different and set up as different in terms of like, we always had like, okay, this is the core and this is the guest performers, and they might be either Brazilian samba school of 30 people coming in with a full-blown carnival, or they could be Mongolian throat singers, or something more just full-on like Bertolt Brecht, very kind of just dry fucking theater, and it went on. I love that stage of the band formation. Every show was basically a happening, which is why we were banned from every fucking place, because just
you showed them, I guess. Yeah. You were banned until you were doing 200 shows a year.
Yeah, exactly. Then we were invited back in, of course, for
right.
Hey, please come back here.
So basically, in your own way, and living in Vermont, you kind of you became your own Gigi Allen. You were in a very different direction, but
I do not see a freaking lick of comparison to that.
Well, being banned from all the
yeah,
venues.
fine. Look, if he would have just stuck to throwing shit at the audience like the monkey he was, that's fine. I don't think that is what Eugene is doing. Thank you. He's taking the shit of the world and throwing love back.
We took a different approach than but
thank you very much.
I think you're bringing up Gigi Allen because he was originally from Vermont.
Well, I think he was originally from New Hampshire, but he lived in Vermont, like around
St. Albans.
Okay.
Yeah,
I refuse to waste another sentence on that ass clown. Anybody that claims they're going to kill themselves and doesn't, I just have no respect anyway. I choose to live. Eugene, you choose to live. Tim Dahl chooses to live. It is our rebellion. Part of our rebellion.
But in same time, not to dismiss the simple fact that when Gigi Allen started, his music was actually very uplifting and
perfect for 14-year-old boys. Yeah,
it was very joyful. If you listen to Gigi Allen stuff like from like 79, 80.
Okay, you're not winning me. You know what? Okay, you're not. And I love the Buzzcocks, but you're not winning me over anyway on that.
What about anal cunt and Seth Putnam, another person out the band that was banned from all?
I never heard of them. I mean, I heard of them, but I never.
Oh, okay.
Listen, it's not really like I have a very strong stomach for that kind of shock value kind of thing, so that doesn't like grub me. Like, oh, okay, like people are still doing that.
Well, yeah.
For me, it's like, can you write the fucking song or not? Do
you have something to say or not? If you don't have a vision, don't give it a freaking sound.
Exactly. I don't give a fucking fuck what kind of shock value it evokes.
You know what? Keep your fucking clothes on. I've seen enough naked bodies, and most of them are not pretty.
Exactly.
Well, except for Eugene, you can take your shirt off anytime, honey. Yes. Thank you.
Eugene, I didn't know any. Look out!
We're having a strip down.
All right. Whoa. I never knew any Eugenes growing up, but you're our third guest named Eugene. It's like, what's going on here? But yeah.
But it was pretty common name.
No, it's a very common name. It's a very
Eugene
common name.
Robinson.
Eugene
Yeah.
Chadbourne.
Eugene
I'm in
O'Neill.
Pardon me?
Eugene O'Neill.
No, he hasn't, no, not yet. Maybe have a psychic reading, we'll get him on.
So are you? What's your year look like for touring?
It's pretty massive. I just saw schedule and I was like, wow, I'm glad I did all that Tai Chi and yoga in Brazil. It's gonna come in handy.
How did you deal with the pandemic? Did you get COVID?
I think it did. I think it did after a first tour, the post-pandemic tour. Yes, I mean, of course, there was something that seemed like COVID, and I felt really lazy for a few days, and then I just kind of get on with my fucking life. It seems like some people get it really rough, and whatever I fucking hated wasn't a big deal. So
No, well, I'm still negative since 77.
Yeah, and I'm not very big on
getting sick. Not big on sick.
That's
a good T-shirt. Not big on sick.
Don't really have the time for that.
I don't have the time.
So when do you go out?
In May.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the summer we're gonna go out and rock in Europe, and most of the summer is always in Europe. Kind of every country you see on the map there, we're gonna be there.
Is your audience bigger in Europe? I mean, most people's audience is bigger in Europe.
No.
Where is it the biggest?
It's about even, actually.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's some countries that are slightly bigger, England, Germany, and maybe.
When you tour Europe, how do you tour? Are you in a bus? Are you flying? Are you hitchhiking? You got a donkey cart? What do you do?
No, we have buses, yeah. Flying, of course, still is, even if you're doing the double decker, there's still a lot of stretches where you have to fly in, fly out.
Well, and it's cheap to fly in Europe. And they never cancel flights. Here they cancel flights every other day. 1,000 flights are canceled. The only time I remember flights being canceled in Europe was for the Icelandic volcano.
It's not so cheap with so many.
Not with all the instruments or people. No.
So many band members.
Get in the van.
We have a huge, we're a huge brigade out there. It's 14 people,
Whoa.
With the crew and everything. So, it's a big operation, yeah. Which is awesome. I mean, I toured as a DJ several times and I hated it. Just the whole idea of bolting out by yourself, and I'm just a band kind of person,
And I mean, the more people, is that easier with the dynamics than like an intimate, like smaller size band, or harder, would you say? I mean, personalities and.
I think it's a lot easier, but I think a lot of it is because as we've been asked that question before, and it seems like it goes back to upbringing, which is, upbringing. America is all about personal space. It's very like on your hard drive. It's very looked after, and the second somebody gets in your personal space, people will fucking let you know.
Guns come out. Yeah.
In countries like Ukraine, Ecuador,
in a lot of countries,
where
first
we
of all,
we came from, like, personal space is not really an issue. Nobody has any personal space. It's like, it's like I grew up in a fucking van, basically, with like living, 9 people in a small apartment, basically 1-bedroom apartment, where people had to figure out, like, okay,
which corner you're going to sleep in.
Yeah, my mother and father and I are like residing in this room, and like we put up one piece of furniture to make it look like it's another room, and that's where like grandfather and grandmother live. And like in the living room there is my mother's brother and his wife and their son, and you figure all those things out. So, but it helps later in life because you can be a lot more resilient.
You can deal. Exactly. You can be more flexible. More flexible.
Exactly. You don't really jones after this kind of luxury so much. And I mean, it's planet Earth. It's not going to get too luxurious any fucking time soon. It's
just going to get more crowded. But the other side of that, or the broader side of that, is for instance, in a lot of European countries, because there is more of, for instance, a cafe society, a communal square, or there's a cafe where people go to, or that the grandmothers, people are waiting for the grannies to die so that the parents can take over, and then the kids take over. It somehow, although it would seem like it's more insane making, it's less insane making. And part of what makes America so insane was when suburbs happened and there's so much separation between other people that then people are freaked out by other. Everybody is other. And that makes them violent and stupid.
Well, I mean, and that was a totally conscious way to breaking up the unions, because, there's always in industrial and in the factories, you could play people based on race or whatever and say, oh, they give these people a raise. But when they would go home, they would talk to their neighbor and say, hey, we're being played. You do white flight, you put them out in the suburbs. Suddenly,
and also make everybody have a car.
Yeah, all that shit. Yeah.
Right. So I understand. I mean, I absolutely understand. Well, Eugene, you have and will continue to be a great delight, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Thank you.
Really. And I hope to see Tuesday night at TBI, because now finally that we have been together for 1 hour, because our paths, maybe the earth is almost ready to have us in the same room at the same time. We've been there slightly. I'm very happy to have you on this show, my friend, and I really respect what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Actually, I'm heading to TVI right now. Right after.
Well, yeah, because Bob Bird's playing tonight with John Spencer.
Well, this will go out after that, but come on Tuesday. Retrovirus Chaser and Peter Evans.
We will be there.
I'm going to send you some links to E.M. Saran's books, because I know you're going to love it.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, nice talking to you, Eugene. Have a great evening.